Hello everyone, and welcome back to Stone to Moon, your gateway to the untold stories of the ancient Philippines. Today, we are diving into a mystery that has left the scientific world completely stunned. We are investigating a discovery that shouldn't exist: 700,000-year-old stone tools found on a Philippine island. Imagine you are an archaeologist, kneeling in the dirt of a remote excavation site. Your brush sweeps away layers of ancient sediment, and suddenly, you hit something hard. You pull it out, wipe off the dust, and realize you are holding a stone tool. It has been carefully crafted, deliberately shaped by an intelligent hand, but there is a problem, a massive problem. The soil you found it in is 700,000 years old. According to every history book ever written, there were no humans anywhere near the Philippines 700,000 years ago. Our own species, Homo sapiens, wouldn't even be born for another 400,000 years. So, who made this? This isn't science fiction. This is a real discovery that is rewriting the timeline of human civilization. Today we are going to unravel the mystery of the Kalinga tools, the impossible artifacts that challenge everything we know about early humans and ocean travel. Let me take you back to the heat and dust of 2018. In the Cagayan Valley of northern Luzon, a team of archaeologists, led by the renowned Dr. Arman Mijaz, was digging at a site called Kalinga. Now, the Philippines wasn't supposed to be a hotspot for ancient human origins. Unlike Africa or mainland Asia, these islands were always considered late arrivals to the human story. The team was hoping to find evidence of early human occupation, maybe some simple tools from 50,000 years ago, or if they were incredibly lucky, 100,000 years ago. But as they dug deeper, cutting through layer after layer of compacted earth and ancient volcanic deposits, they struck archaeological gold. They found stone tools, not just one or two, but dozens. Flakes, cores, hammerstones. These were not random rocks shaped by a river. They showed the unmistakable scars of deliberate stonework technology. Someone nearly 1 million years ago sat down, selected these stones, and intentionally struck them to create razor-sharp edges. But here is where the story turns into a riddle. The team used multiple high-tech scientific methods to date the soil: uranium series dating, paleomagnetic analysis, and stratigraphic correlation. The results were shocking. The layer was 709,000 years old. The scientists checked their work. They ran the tests again. The date held firm: 709,000 years ago. Someone was living and working in the Philippines. To understand why this discovery is absolutely mind-blowing, we have to talk about the Great Barrier of Human Migration, the ocean. The accepted timeline says modern humans evolved in Africa about 300,000 years ago and didn't leave until much later. But 700,000 years ago, we are talking about the era of Homo erectus, an early, primitive human ancestor. They had fire, they had stone tools, and they walked out of Africa into Asia. But here is the catch: Homo erectus were land walkers. They didn't build boats. The Philippines has always been an archipelago. Even during the deepest ice ages, when sea levels dropped and land bridges formed between continents, the Philippines remained isolated by deep, treacherous ocean channels. You cannot walk there. To reach Luzon, you need a boat. You need ocean crossing technology. We have zero evidence that any human ancestor had that capability 700,000 years ago. The earliest proof of ocean-crossing vessels is only about 50,000 years old. So, we are left with a massive puzzle. We have tools in the Philippines from an era when no one should have been able to get there. Who crossed the impossible sea? Scientists are scrambling for answers, and they have proposed several theories to explain this anomaly. Let's dissect them. Some researchers suggest that these early humans didn't build boats. They were victims of a disaster. Imagine a massive tsunami or a typhoon sweeping a group of Homo erectus out to sea on a raft of tangled vegetation. Against all odds, the currents carried them to Luzon, where they survived and reproduced. It sounds like a movie plot, but we know animals have colonized islands this way. However, for a population to survive for thousands of years, you need more than one lucky survivor. You need a breeding group. The odds of that happening by accident are astronomical. This is where it gets thrilling. What if there was another human species we don't know about? Southeast Asia is proving to be an evolutionary laboratory. We already found Homo floresiensis, the hobbits, in Indonesia, and the mysterious Denisovans. Maybe the makers of the Kalinga tools were a completely unknown species of hominin, one that evolved island hopping capabilities hundreds of thousands of years before us. This is the radical theory. What if Homo erectus was smarter than we think? What if the cognitive leap to build rafts and navigate water happened 500,000 years earlier than history admits? New research shows Homo erectus had a larger brain capacity and more complex social structures than we previously believed. If they could plan, hunt, and use fire, is it impossible to think they could tie logs together to cross a strait? But the tools were not the only thing the team found in the dirt. They found a smoking gun that brings this ancient scene to life in violent detail. Buried alongside the stone tools was a nearly complete skeleton of a rhinoceros, but not just any rhino, a species that went extinct 700,000 years ago. And the bones told a brutal story. They were covered in cut marks and impact fractures. This rhino wasn't scavenged, it was butchered. The marks on the ribs and limb bones show that whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. They had a systematic approach to dismembering the animal to get the meat and the marrow. This wasn't a clumsy attempt by a primitive creature. This was skilled, organized processing by an intelligent predator. This confirms the date beyond a shadow of a doubt. These toolmakers were hunting and eating animals that vanished from the earth long before modern humans arrived. So, what does this mean for us? The Kalinga discovery forces us to burn the old maps of human migration. It implies that human cognitive ability, planning, risk-taking, and perhaps even boat building, developed far earlier in our history. It suggests that the story of human migration isn't a straight line. It's a messy, complex web of waves and pulses. Humans and their ancestors were exploring the corners of the earth, crossing seas, and adapting to island life while our direct ancestors were still in Africa. It also tells us that we have been looking in the wrong places. If these ancient humans lived on coastlines 700,000 years ago, most of their settlements are now underwater, drowned by rising sea levels after the ice ages. We have excavated less than 1% of the potential sites in Southeast Asia. Who knows what else is buried under the jungle or beneath the waves? Who made the Kalinga tools? We still don't have a name. We don't have a skull. We only have their handiwork and the bones of their prey. Was it a super smart Homo erectus? Was it a lost ghost lineage of humanity? The makers remain shadows in the archaeological record, ghosts who accomplished the impossible. 700,000 years ago, someone stood on a Philippine island, held a stone, and struck it to create a blade. They survived in a place they shouldn't have been able to reach. And they are still waiting for us to figure out who they were. The mystery remains. The search continues. Somewhere in the ancient sediments of the Philippines, the truth is waiting. If you want to support the search for our hidden history, help us reach 500 likes on this video. Share your theories in the comments. How do you think they crossed the ocean? And don't forget to subscribe to Stone to Moon for the next chapter of the unknown. See you in the next investigation.